sky glow, glare, light trespass, and light clutter. The combination of all of those are really the culprits, right? The ones that are creating the light pollution. Sky glow looks a little bit like this. It's a haze that just lingers above your city, and like I said, it can be visible up to 200 kilometers away. It seems to be increasing at a higher rate than we previously thought. Let's talk about glare. Brighter is not better. Is not really about the quantity of light. It's mostly about the quality of light. If we have good quality lighting, we can see better. Light trespass, it can happen anywhere. All it takes is just really bright or badly aimed light. Maybe we need to start reevaluating the lighting standards of the municipality or the neighborhood. Maybe we need to change a few things here and there to adjust the requirements of the lighting so we can mitigate light pollution. I want to share an anecdote, something that happened to me when I was about 10 years old. That was the first time I remember I ever saw a pristine dark sky with all of its magnificent stars. And it happened when I was on vacation in an island, and suddenly the power went off. And it turns out that it went off around 4 p.m. in the afternoon. It came back around 9 p.m. in the evening. And so, of course, my brother and I were sitting outside watching the sunset and all of these beautiful stars starting appearing. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I've never seen so many stars in my life. But at the same time, something interesting happened. When I looked around, everything was pitch dark. And I felt like I couldn't move because I would get lost, or I wouldn't even be able to move around because there was no lighting. So, although I was experiencing something in my life that was beautiful and magnificent, at the same time, I was experiencing something that was very scary. And that experience stayed in my mind. And I guess it never really clicked for me until very recently when we started talking about light pollution, how we should mitigate light pollution, and also how we started talking about potentially, considering darkness as an option. And that's where, to me, it clicked. The interesting thing about the sky glow is that sky glow can actually travel up to 200 kilometers. So even if you are in an area that takes care of its night sky and uses very good, shielded lighting, you can still be affected by areas that are about 200 kilometers away from you. And in the screen, I have a good example. This is in the United States. We can see two cities here, Phoenix and Flagstaff. Flagstaff is a city in the United States that has very good guidelines and regulations about protecting the night sky. But as you can see, the city of Phoenix, the glow that comes out of it actually affects Flagstaff. It travels in a way that it ends up lingering above Flagstaff. So, another thing to keep in mind about sky glow is that it seems to be increasing at a higher rate than we previously thought. It is increasing between 6.5 to 10.4% every year in Europe and North America. And although it hasn't been fully measured in developing countries, it is believed that in those locations, the increase in sky glow every year may actually be higher than that. So, sky glow looks a little bit like this. It's a haze that just lingers above your city. And like I said, it can be visible up to 200 kilometers away. In the right side, we have the city of Los Angeles. On the left side, we have the city of Dubai, where I currently live. And although the tint of the sky glow is very different because it depends on the type of lighting that we have in our cities, it still looks very much the same. Let's talk about glare now. Glare is defined as the excessive brightness that can cause visual discomfort or even disability. And this image that I'm showing here on the right, I think it's become very famous, and some of you may have already seen it. And for those of you that haven't, I wonder if you can see the person that is standing in this picture. And if you cannot, then tell me now. Can you see that person now? So it turns out that if you look at the previous image closely, you will find out that that person was standing there all the time. But we couldn't see that person because the light was so bright that it was taking all of our attention. The moment that we cover the light, we are able to focus on this person, which really comes to show that brighter is not better, is not really about the quantity of light. It's mostly about the quality of light. If we have good quality lighting, we can see better. We could see a massive amount of brightness coming out of all of those cities along the coast of the Gulf. But in the center of Saudi Arabia, we find a lot of brightness. We can also see it in the Red Sea and also around the Mediterranean. And we can really tell the shape of the Nile with all that brightness that comes out of it. But at the same time, we can see a lot of areas in this region that are very much dark. We're going to start talking about the effects on biodiversity because these are the ones that we're hearing the most, right? Unfortunately, light pollution can disrupt many natural ways in our biodiversity. For example, it can really affect the natural behavior of bugs. It can disrupt the seasonal changes in trees. In places where we have the four seasons, for example, the trees may not shed the leaves at the time when they need to, and then they may suffer from freezing. We all know that light pollution has very damaging effects on turtles. So it can disrupt the hatchling navigation. We all know that turtles tend to go where the light is. So if there is a very bright environment around the beaches where um, their eggs hatch, they can be disoriented and then they'll never make it to the sea. We have also seen disruption to migratory patterns of birds. Of course, those would be the birds that migrate at night and they can get lost and disoriented and end up in the wrong place. Um, there has been observations of disruption to predatory patterns for mammals that hunt at night, and also disruption to roosting and feeding of bats. So what happens is that when the environment around their areas it becomes very bright, they believe it's still daytime outside, so they don't go out to hunt, and it can create a massive problem for them. And of course, the effects of light pollution on our health, they're becoming more and more popular to talk about, or it's becoming more and more popular to talk about the damage to our circadian rhythm that we all know gets affected not only by bright lights, but also by specific parts of the spectrum of lighting, right? And the problem is that when we start messing with our circadian rhythm, our body gets completely disrupted and it can cause problems like cancer, obesity, depression, sleep disorders, reproductive health, heart disease, diabetes, and many more. So we need to come to an agreement that it is all about balance, right? We have seen that it is possible to introduce lighting into our environment without necessarily creating damaging outcomes in both in our environment and ourselves. And we need to admit that it is because of electric lighting that we have been able to come this far in our development as a society. So we cannot just blame lighting for everything that's happening. We just need to understand that lighting is just a tool and we need to use it right.